What if I told you that one of the most famous drinks in the world, Coca-Cola, actually started out as a painkiller and addiction treatment, and it really did have cocaine in its original recipe? What are you talking about? It's true. This dark-colored soda that you see in every store today, and that everyone from kids to adults loves and drinks. Once upon a time, it was only available in a small pharmacy and was used to treat headaches and morphine addiction. But what about now? Just the brand alone is worth $260 billion. So let's go together and see what the story behind this drink is. The year is 1886, here in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Inside a small pharmacy called Jacob's Pharmacy, a doctor named Dr. John Pemberton was looking for a way to quit his morphine addiction. This doctor was a veteran from the American Civil War who had become addicted to strong painkillers because of his wounds. It's interesting to know that back then, using narcotics was legal. Nevertheless, Dr. Pemberton was looking for a healthier alternative for himself. So, he got to work. He made a syrup by combining coca leaves and cola nuts and offered that syrup in his pharmacy as a nerve tonic and headache remedy. Now, maybe the price will interest you too. Each glass was just 5 cents. In short, back then, no one knew that this little concoction was going to take the world by storm one day. Even the doctor himself didn't benefit much from Coca-Cola's success, and he died a year later. So, the man who invented Coca-Cola never got to see how his creation became the king of beverages. After Dr. Pemberton's death, this man, Asa Candler, stepped in. He was a shrewd businessman who bought Pemberton's syrup formula for a very low price. Right from the start, he knew this formula was something special. So what he did wasn't just advertising, he built a brand. But how? For example, he handed out free coupons and put the Coca-Cola logo on all sorts of things, like wall clocks, calendars, fans, even school notebooks. In short, he made sure the name Coca-Cola stuck in everyone's mind, and this wasn't just limited to America. The Coca-Cola brand became famous worldwide. Let's dive a bit deeper into this and see exactly what special decision made Coca-Cola go international. In 1899, two lawyers named Benjamin Thomas and Joseph Whitehead came to Candler and suggested that he let them bottle Coca-Cola and sell it all across America. At first, Candler was hesitant, but in the end, he sold them the entire bottling rights for just $1. I should tell you that before this, Coca-Cola was only sold as a self-serve drink at pharmacies. But this simple decision to bottle Coca-Cola became the lifeblood of its global expansion. And with the bottling system, by 1920 Coca-Cola had entered international markets and made its way to various countries around the world, like Canada, Cuba, and Panama. But in the midst of all this, what exactly was the main job of the bottling plant? Its job was to turn the main drink extract, or the concentrate, into the final soda. But how? By diluting it with water and adding sweetener and carbonation. It's interesting to know that Coca-Cola, no matter where in the world it's produced, has to taste exactly the same as it does anywhere else. But that's a challenge, because Coca-Cola is made up of almost 90% water, and on top of that, the bottler is the one who provides the water needed, since water tastes different depending on its source. This makes things difficult for the bottler. That's why the factory uses its own wells, disinfects the water, and then purifies it with a nano filter so it doesn't have any distinct taste or smell. But let's talk about the significant role this drink played during World War II. At that time, the then president of the Coca-Cola brand, Robert Woodruff, had a motto. Every American soldier, wherever they are in the world, should be able to have a Coca-Cola for 5 cents. But to make this motto a reality, Coca-Cola factories were built next to military bases. But when the war ended, the factories stayed in those areas and continued their operations. But in the meantime, Coca-Cola was no longer just a tasty drink. It had become a symbol of freedom and being American. Now, in this section, I want to dive into one of the most fascinating topics related to the Coca-Cola brand, the secret formula of this soda. Well, right off the bat, I should say that at Coca-Cola's headquarters in Atlanta, there's a huge archive known as the Coca-Cola Archive or the Coca-Cola Treasure. But what exactly is kept in this archive? The contents of this treasure include over 1 million historical documents, old advertisements dating back to 1886, prototype bottles, soda vending machines from different decades, special products from various countries and cultures, and so on. Now, you might be curious about how you can actually see this treasure. Well, if you go to the city of Atlanta, there's a place called the World of Coca-Cola, which is more like a museum. Visitors can see the brand's history, try different soda flavors from around the world, and experience lots of other interesting things. But the most important thing is that the original, physical handwritten formula of Coca-Cola is also kept in a vault at the World of Coca-Cola. But the Coca-Cola formula is one of the most closely guarded trade secrets in the world. They call it Merchandise 7X, and it's a blend of natural flavorings and essences like cinnamon, vanilla, nutmeg, lemon, and bitter orange extract. Of course, there are a lot of claims, but it's never been officially confirmed exactly what these ingredients are. Interestingly, it's said that only a very limited number of top executives at the company, at most 2 people at any given time, have access to the full formula and actually know it completely. But the strange thing is that these 2 executives are also subject to special security measures. For example, they're never allowed to travel together, so that if something happens to one of them, the other is still around and knows the formula. Anyway, an interesting point is that the original Coca-Cola formula used to contain a very small amount of cocaine, but this ingredient was removed in 1929. So now they still use the same coca leaf that used to contain cocaine, but it no longer has any narcotic substances in it. These leaves are imported into the US by only one specific company, which is the only place allowed to do this, and it sells the cocaine-free leftovers to Coca-Cola. In short, all we know is that making Coca-Cola starts with a thick syrup. This syrup is made in special factories and then sent to authorized bottling companies around the world. There, the syrup is mixed with purified water and sweeteners, and then carbonated. In fact, it's that carbonation that gives Coca-Cola its famous fizz. Finally, the soda is bottled or canned and sent to stores and restaurants all over the world. But before I explain how Coca-Cola is produced, I need to introduce you to the modular production system. Imagine a factory wants to build a computer. Instead of soldering and designing everything all in one place, parts like RAM, CPU, graphics card, and motherboard are each produced in different factories, and then in the end, all these parts have to be assembled and connected together. Now, in the soft drink industry, Coca-Cola also uses this same modular production technique. That means one part makes the main drink extract, or what we call the concentrate. Another part produces the bottles or cans. A different factory mixes water and sugar with the concentrate. One factory is only responsible for making the base flavor and aroma. In one place, the final drink is made, and somewhere else, the packaging and distribution are handled. It's interesting to know that the security system for the raw materials is extremely strict. That means the raw materials are sent to the facilities either unnamed or with a special code, and because of this modular production, employees never have a complete picture of what they're making. In this way, a kind of separation and compartmentalization of knowledge takes place, which is very important in corporate management systems. In short, the Coca-Cola production process is a technological masterpiece. In this process, the bottling plants have machines that can fill up to 120,000 bottles in an hour. Quality control is also extremely important to them because the taste of Coca-Cola has to be the same everywhere, from the US and Canada to Brazil, Germany, or Japan. And they're really meticulous about making sure of that. Now, let's get a bit more familiar with the different types of this brand. In Mexico, Coca-Cola is made with cane sugar instead of corn syrup. A lot of people say it tastes much better with this combination. In Japan, there's even a clear, colorless version called Coca-Cola Clear. But in Italy, there's a strange and bitter drink from this brand called Beverly. In India, Coca-Cola has also launched a mango drink called Maaza. It's interesting to know that, overall, Coca-Cola now has more than 500 different brands, from Fanta sodas to Minute Maid juices and Costa coffee. Now you might be wondering, so how do we drink Coca-Cola in Iran with the same taste? In Iran, the Kashkavar company in Mashhad has been producing Coca-Cola products since the 1990s. They buy the original concentrated syrup from a Coca-Cola representative in a third country and bring it to Iran. Then, following strict Iranian regulations, they produce and package the soda using purified water and standardized 3.2 carbonation. In terms of branding, since our country has no connection with the outside, you could say that no royalties are paid to the main Coca-Cola company in America. But now, let's get into the controversies and scandals surrounding this famous brand. No empire achieves great success without trouble. And it's the same with Coca-Cola. In 1985, Coca-Cola decided to change its formula and produce a new drink called New Coke. The reason was that their sales had dropped and competition with Pepsi had intensified. Pepsi had launched heavy advertising campaigns, especially a famous campaign called the Pepsi Challenge, where people preferred the taste of Pepsi over Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola's executives concluded that their traditional formula had become outdated and that they needed to make a major change and replace their 99-year-old recipe. But the reaction from the American public was disastrous. Coca-Cola was a national symbol and had a nostalgic taste for millions of people. That's why people started writing letters to the company, some even protested in the streets, and others hoarded old bottles. In short, after just 79 days, the company was forced to bring back the old version under the name Coca-Cola Classic. Interestingly, this failure actually made Coca-Cola even more popular. It was as if people had just realized how much they were attached to that old taste. This story became a historic lesson in marketing. Don't mess with something people love. At the same time, Coca-Cola tried to maintain its position with catchy advertisements. Coca-Cola's ads have always been star-studded, from Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe to Beyoncé and Taylor Swift, and of course their iconic polar bears, who first appeared in a commercial in 1993 and quickly became fan favorites. Still, over the years, Coca-Cola has faced other challenges as well. For example, the company has been accused of unethical practices, such as supporting anti-union activities in South America. Coca-Cola has also faced heavy criticism for its excessive water consumption in arid regions like India. On the other hand, they've been called out for the high rates of obesity, with critics saying their drinks are too sugary and have endangered public health. Nevertheless, the Coca-Cola brand has tried to move forward with confidence and strength despite all these problems, for example by starting to produce low-sugar and sugar-free drinks. In short, even today and despite all these challenges, Coca-Cola is still a beloved and tasty part of people's culture and lives. A symbol of joy and togetherness. Now let me tell you another interesting fact about Coca-Cola. Did you know that Coca-Cola has been to space too? In 1985, the astronauts on the Space Shuttle Challenger were the first people to drink Coca-Cola in zero gravity. Just imagine drinking Coca-Cola in space. Now, if you want my opinion about today's video, honestly, I always thought Coca-Cola was just a soft drink. But after all this research, I realized that this brand has actually been a cultural, political, and even military symbol. What do you think? What's your opinion about the secrets behind this brand? Be sure to write in the comments which part of this story you found most interesting. The story of Coca-Cola, from an anti-addiction medicine in a small pharmacy to a $260 billion empire, shows how smart advertising, a unique formula, and bold decision-making can turn something simple into a legend. This isn't just the story of a soft drink. It's a big lesson in creativity, risk-taking in business, and branding.